My daughter and her husband just stole my life savings while I watched her do it. I'm Ed Thompson, and 42 years of being a father just died in that bank lobby. Lisa stood there with her husband Mark, cashing out $480,000 from my account. My retirement money, my security, my trust in family. But here's what broke my heart most. She was smiling. Actually smiling while she destroyed me. They think I'm losing my mind. Some confused old professor who can't manage his own affairs. What they don't know is that I've been recording every cruel word, every dismissive comment, every plan to put me away. For 6 months, I've watched my own child treat me like a burden instead of her father. Instead of stopping them, I walked to my car. I had a psychology experiment to complete. Hey, if this story hits close to home, hit that subscribe button and let me know what state you're watching from. Family drama seems universal, doesn't it? Because what I did next will change how you think about family loyalty forever. It started 6 months ago when I began my little performance. See, my daughter Lisa had been treating me like I was losing my mind ever since her mother died 3 years back. Fiona passed from Alzheimer's, and I guess Lisa figured dementia ran in families. The first test came during a family dinner in April. I deliberately called Mark by the wrong name. "How's the business going, Mike?" Lisa's fork froze halfway to her mouth. "Dad, his name is Mark Williams. He's been your son-in-law for 8 years. I blinked slowly like I was confused. "Of course, Mark. Sorry about that. But here's what really happened next." Lisa turned to Mark and whispered, loud enough for me to hear, "See? I told you he's getting worse." Mark nodded, cutting his steak with unnecessary force. "Maybe we should start helping him with his finances. You know, before he gets scammed by one of those phone calls." I kept eating my mashed potatoes, letting them think I couldn't hear. But the Sony recorder in my shirt pocket caught every word. The second incident happened 3 weeks later at my doctor's appointment. Dr. Patricia Reynolds had been my physician for 15 years. Lisa insisted on coming along to make sure Dad doesn't forget anything important. During the exam, Dr. Reynolds asked about my medications. "I take the usual old man cocktail," I said. "Blood pressure pills, cholesterol medication, and a baby aspirin." Lisa immediately jumped in. "Dad's been forgetting to take them. I found 3 days' worth still in his pill organizer last week." That was a lie. I'd been tracking my medication intake with scientific precision, documenting every pill in a journal, but I just nodded along. "Memory issues can be challenging," Dr. Reynolds said diplomatically. After the appointment, Lisa cornered me in the parking lot. "Dad, Mark and I think you should consider letting us help with your bank accounts, just as a backup. You know, in case something happens." I played the confused elderly man perfectly. "I suppose that makes sense. You kids know about computers better than I do." But what Lisa didn't know was that I'd spent 40 years studying family dynamics. I had a PhD from Yale in clinical psychology. I'd published 87 papers on elder psychology and family relationships, and I was conducting the most important research of my career. The third test came in June. I left my bank statements visible on the kitchen counter when Lisa visited. The TD bank statement showed my savings account balance, $480,000. Lisa's eyes went wide when she saw the number. "Dad, why do you have so much money just sitting in savings? That's not earning any interest." I shrugged. "Your mother and I saved for retirement. Never got around to investing it properly." "But Dad, you could be earning thousands in dividends. Or what if someone hacks your account? Old people get targeted all the time." Mark appeared behind her, reading over her shoulder. His expression changed when he saw the balance. "Ed, maybe Lisa should be added as a cosigner. You know, for emergencies." I pretended to consider this. "Would that be legal?" "Completely legal," Lisa said quickly. "Lots of families do it. I'd just be there as backup." 2 days later, we went to TD Bank on Main Street. Jennifer Walsh, the senior teller, processed the paperwork to add Lisa as a joint account holder. "This gives your daughter full access to withdraw funds," she explained. "She can conduct transactions without your signature." I nodded like a trusting father. But that night, I updated my research notes. Subject displays increasing financial interest correlating with perceived cognitive decline. Hypothesis: will subjects prioritize resource acquisition over caregiving when presented with opportunity? The experiment was working perfectly. What I didn't expect was how much their behavior would hurt. By August, I realized what I stood to lose if I stayed silent. It wasn't just the money, though $480,000 represented 30 years of careful saving. Fiona and I had lived modestly,
driving used cars, shopping at discount stores, taking one vacation every 3 years. That money was supposed to be our security in old age. But the real stakes were deeper. See, Lisa and Mark didn't know about my other accounts. The Fidelity investment portfolio worth $1.8 million. The paid-off house worth $650,000. The university pension bringing in $8,200 monthly. The life insurance policies totaling $750,000. My total net worth was $3.2 million. But they saw me as a bumbling old professor who couldn't manage his own affairs. The first sign of their spending came in late August. Mark pulled into my driveway in a brand-new Ford F-150 King Ranch Edition. The sticker price on those trucks runs about $67,000. "Nice truck," I said, playing the clueless grandfather. Mark's chest puffed out. Finally got the business vehicle I needed. The old pickup was falling apart. But I'd seen Mark's business. Williams HVAC barely had 3 employees. A $67,000 truck was pure status symbol. Lisa started showing up in new clothes, designer handbags, professional manicures every 2 weeks. When I commented on her appearance, she deflected. "Mark's business is doing better. We can finally afford some nice things." The second red flag was their family vacation to Europe in September. Lisa posted photos on Facebook. First-class flights, 5-star hotels in Paris and Rome, shopping sprees on the Champs-Élysées. A 2-week European vacation for a family of 4 runs at least $50,000 when you're flying first class. But the breaking point came in October when I overheard a phone conversation. Lisa thought I was napping in my recliner. She was in the kitchen talking to someone about real estate. "The beach condo in Hampton is perfect. Yes, we can put down $150,000. Mark's business is expanding rapidly." A beach condo. They were buying investment property with my money. I kept my eyes closed, but my hand moved to the recorder in my pocket. "Dad won't need all that cash anyway," Lisa continued. "If he goes into memory care, Medicaid will cover most expenses. This way, we're protecting the family's assets." That's when I understood the full scope of their plan. They weren't just taking money for immediate needs. They were systematically transferring my wealth to protect it from potential nursing home costs. In their minds, I was already gone, just a shell of a man waiting for institutional care. The legal implications were staggering. In New Hampshire, elder financial abuse is a felony. Taking more than $1,500 without permission carries up to 7 years in prison. And I had evidence. But the emotional stakes cut deeper. For 42 years, I'd been Lisa's father. I'd changed her diapers, taught her to ride a bike, paid for her college education, walked her down the aisle at her wedding. When Fiona got sick, I'd cared for my wife with devotion, researching every treatment option, holding her hand through the worst moments. And this was how my daughter saw me, as a resource to be managed, not a person to be respected. The social consequences would be devastating. Lisa worked as a marketing manager at a mid-sized tech company in Portsmouth. Mark's HVAC business depended on local reputation. Word travels fast in small New Hampshire towns. But I had advantages they didn't know about. My 40-year career studying family psychology had given me insights into human behavior. I understood manipulation tactics, cognitive biases, and decision-making patterns under stress. I had professional connections throughout the state, colleagues in the university psychology department, relationships with medical professionals, contacts in the legal system who respected my research. And I had something they'd never expect, perfect documentation of their behavior. Every conversation recorded, every expenditure tracked, every justification documented. The question wasn't whether I could expose them. The question was whether I should. Fiona used to say that family forgives everything. But Fiona never lived to see our daughter treat me like a mentally incompetent burden. On October 2nd, I made my decision. I would let them take the money, all of it. And then I would teach them the most important lesson of their lives. The next morning, I called my attorney and scheduled a meeting. Then I contacted 3 colleagues from the university psychology department. It was time to turn my family into a case study. The withdrawal happened on October 3rd, 2:47 p.m. I was sitting in my Honda Civic across the street from TD Bank when Lisa and Mark walked in. They moved like people on a mission. Shoulders straight, eyes focused, no hesitation. Through the glass windows, I watched them approach Jennifer Walsh's counter. I'd called ahead. "Jennifer, this is Professor Thompson. My daughter might be making a large withdrawal today. I just wanted to confirm that's normal procedure." "Of course, Professor. She's listed as joint account holder.
She has full access. Perfect. Thank you. What Jennifer didn't know was that I'd positioned myself to observe the entire transaction. Lisa slid the withdrawal slip across the marble counter. Even from my car, I could see her hands shaking slightly. Mark stood behind her, checking his phone, glancing at the security cameras. The conversation inside lasted exactly 12 minutes. I know because I timed it. When they emerged, Lisa was clutching a cashier's check. Mark had his arm around her shoulders, like they'd just accomplished something important. They drove straight to Seacoast Bank and deposited the check into their joint account. I followed at a distance. That evening, they came to my house for our weekly dinner, a tradition Fiona had started years ago, family dinner every Wednesday night. "How was your day, Dad?" Lisa asked, serving meatloaf from the kitchen. "Quiet," I said. "Watched some television, read a bit." Mark cut his food with aggressive precision. "Any plans for the weekend?" "Might visit the university library. Research for an article I'm writing." Lisa's fork paused. "Dad, you're retired. You don't need to write articles anymore." "Research keeps my mind sharp." "About that," Mark said, exchanging glances with Lisa. "We've been thinking. Maybe it's time you considered simplifying things." I looked up from my meatloaf. "Simplifying?" "Your finances," Lisa said carefully. "All those different accounts and investments. It must be confusing to track everything." "I manage fine." "But what if something happens to you?" Mark pressed. "What if you have a medical emergency? Someone needs to be able to access your accounts quickly." This was the moment I'd been waiting for. "What kind of emergency?" Lisa leaned forward. "Dad, we're worried about you. You've been forgetting things, repeating yourself. Last week you called Mark Mike 3 times. Did I?" "Yes. And you left the stove on Tuesday morning." "I found it when I came to check on you." Another lie. I'd been documenting my daily activities with scientific precision. The stove had never been left on. Mark nodded supportively. "These things happen, Ed. It's nothing to be ashamed of. But it means you need backup systems." "What kind of backup systems?" "Power of attorney," Lisa said quickly. "Just basic legal protection. So, if you're ever in the hospital, we can pay your bills, handle your banking." I set down my fork. "That sounds serious." "It's just paperwork," Mark assured me. "Responsible families do this all the time." "Would I still control my own money?" "Of course," Lisa said. "Nothing would change day to day. We'd just be there as consultants." The word hung in the air like poison. Consultants. "I'll think about it," I said. After they left, I reviewed the audio recording from dinner. Their language patterns revealed everything: subtle pressure tactics, false urgency, manufactured concern. Classic manipulation techniques I'd studied for decades. The next morning, Lisa called. "Dad, I've been thinking about our conversation. Maybe we should schedule an appointment with your doctor, just to discuss your memory issues." "I feel fine." "I know you do, but sometimes people don't realize when they're having problems. It's like vision. You don't know you need glasses until you get an eye exam." Brilliant metaphor. She'd clearly rehearsed this conversation. What would the doctor do? Basic cognitive tests, memory exercises, nothing invasive, just baseline measurements. "In case I get worse." "Hopefully you won't get worse, but if you do, we'll have documentation for insurance purposes." "Insurance purposes?" Code for legal justification for taking control. "Okay," I said. "Schedule the appointment." "Really?" The surprise in her voice was telling. She'd expected more resistance. "You're probably right. Better safe than sorry." "Great, I'll call doctor. I'll call." Reynolds today? That afternoon, Mark stopped by unannounced. He found me in the garage, organizing tools. "Working on any projects?" he asked. "Just tidying up. Your mother always said a clean workspace means a clear mind." Mark picked up a screwdriver, examined it like he'd never seen one before. "Ed, can I ask you something personal?" "Sure. How much money do you really have?" Direct approach. Interesting tactical shift. "Enough to be comfortable." "I mean, specifically." "Lisa's worried you might be vulnerable to scams. Those investment companies target elderly people with promises of high returns. I only use reputable firms." "Which firms?" I paused, hammer in hand. "Why do you ask?" "Because Lisa and I want to help. We could research your investment advisors, make sure they're legitimate. Sometimes families get taken advantage of." "Have I been taken advantage of?" Mark's face flushed. "I don't know. That's what we're trying to figure out." "I appreciate your concern. So you'll share your financial information? I'll consider it." Mark left frustrated. I could see it in his shoulders, the way he slammed my front door. That night, I transcribed both conversations.
The pressure was escalating exactly as I'd predicted. They were moving from gentle suggestion to direct interrogation. Tomorrow would bring the next phase. And I was ready. The signs of my hidden capabilities started showing up in small ways they didn't notice. On Thursday morning, my phone rang during breakfast. Lisa was visiting, helping me organize my pill organizer, another invented responsibility she'd assigned herself. Professor Thompson? The voice was crisp, professional. This is Dr. Janet Foster from the University Ethics Board. We need to discuss your research proposal. I walked to the living room, leaving Lisa in the kitchen. She could hear every word. Janet, thanks for calling back.
Yes, the family dynamics study is progressing well. We'll need IRB approval for the final phase. The intervention methodology you outlined is innovative. Controlled observation with voluntary subjects? Exactly. The subjects have provided implicit consent through their behavior patterns. When do you plan to present findings? Mid-December. I'll have 6 months of data by then. Excellent. The department is looking forward to your presentation. When I hung up, Lisa was standing in the doorway, pill bottle forgotten in her hand. Dad, what was that about? University business, boring stuff. But you're retired. Emeritus faculty still contribute to research. Dr. Foster oversees ethical standards for psychology studies. Lisa's expression shifted. For the first time in months, she looked at me like I might be more than a confused old man. What kind of study? Family dynamics under stress. How adult children respond when elderly parents show signs of cognitive decline. The irony was lost on her. That afternoon, another call came while Mark was helping me reorganize my desk drawers. Ed, this is Patricia Reynolds. I wanted to follow up on Lisa's request for cognitive testing. Mark stopped rifling through my papers. Of course, Patricia. When did you want to schedule the assessment? Actually, I'm calling because I reviewed your file. Your cognitive function scores from your annual physical in June were perfect. I'm not sure why Lisa thinks there's a problem. Sometimes family members notice things doctors miss. True. But Ed, your scores were 99th percentile for your age group, better than most people half your age. Mark was listening intently now, pretending to organize my desk supplies. I appreciate your thoroughness, Patricia. Why don't we do the testing anyway? For baseline documentation. Of course. But I wanted you to know, from a medical perspective, you're remarkably sharp. After I hung up, Mark resumed his fake organizing with less enthusiasm. Good news about your health, he said. I suppose, though Lisa seems convinced I'm losing my mind. She's just protective. The third call came Friday evening. I was reading in my study when the phone rang. Through the window, I could see Lisa's car in the driveway. She was early for dinner. Professor Thompson, this is Sarah Mitchell from Peterson and Associates. You requested a consultation about estate planning? Yes, Sarah. I'm updating my will and trust documents. Excellent. I've reviewed your asset portfolio. Quite impressive. $3.2 million in total value. Lisa had just walked through my front door. She froze when she heard the number. The trust structure you're proposing is sophisticated, Sarah continued. Charitable foundations, educational endowments, specific family provisions. Are you sure about the conditional inheritance clauses? Absolutely. If certain family members demonstrate financial irresponsibility, their inheritance should be redirected to more worthy causes. Understood. When did you want to finalize these documents? Mid-December, after I complete some family research. When I hung up, Lisa was standing in my study doorway, face pale. Dad, was that about your will? Estate planning. Your mother always said I should be more organized about these things. $3.2 million? I looked up from my book. Did I mention a number? The lawyer said $3.2 million. Oh, that. Yes, your mother and I were more successful than we let on. We lived modestly, but we invested wisely. Lisa sank into the chair across from my desk. I had no idea. We never wanted you kids to feel entitled. Better to earn your own way. But Dad, that's a fortune. It's comfortable. Though I'm considering leaving most of it to charity. Her face went white. Charity? The university psychology department could use endowment funding, and there's a wonderful organization that supports Alzheimer's research. What about family? I closed my book, marking the page carefully. Family inheritance should go to family members who demonstrate wisdom and responsibility. Don't you think? Lisa nodded weakly. Of course, if I develop serious cognitive problems, I might not be competent to make those decisions. Someone would need to manage my affairs. Right, she said quietly. That night, I added notes to my research journal.
Subject shows increased anxiety when presented with information about experimental parameters. Knowledge of total asset value creates cognitive dissonance with theft justification narrative. The psychology was working perfectly. By December, they'd understand exactly who they'd been dealing with.
And they'd never underestimate a psychology professor again. The public humiliation came during Thanksgiving dinner at my house. Lisa had invited the extended family, her Aunt Carol, Uncle Robert, cousins David and Susan with their spouses, and the grandchildren. 14 people total, all gathered in my dining room around Fiona's mahogany table. I'd been playing the confused grandfather all afternoon, forgetting names, repeating stories, asking the same questions twice. The performance was Academy Award level. "Grandpa, you already asked me about school 3 times," said my 10-year-old granddaughter Emma. "Did I? Sorry, sweetheart. My memory isn't what it used to be." Lisa and Mark exchanged meaningful glances across the table. That's when Carol, Fiona's sister, brought up the elephant in the room. "Ed, you seem more scattered than last year. Are you feeling all right?" I set down my fork slowly. Some days are better than others. "Maybe it's time to consider some help," Robert suggested. "My father-in-law moved to assisted living last year. Really took the pressure off the family." Mark leaned forward. "That's actually something Lisa and I have been discussing." I blinked slowly, playing confused. "Discussing what?" "Your living situation, Dad," Lisa said gently. "Whether this big house is too much for you to manage." 14 pairs of eyes focused on me. The grandchildren stopped eating, sensing adult drama. "I manage fine." "But do you?" Lisa's voice carried that patient tone people use with small children. "You left the stove on last week. You've been forgetting appointments." "Have I?" Mark nodded supportively. "Yesterday you called me Mike again, and you asked Lisa the same question 4 times during one phone call." I looked around the table at my family. Every face showed pity mixed with concern. "I don't remember that." "That's exactly the problem," Carol said kindly. "When memory goes, people don't realize it's happening." Susan, my nephew's wife, spoke up. "My grandmother went through this. The family waited too long to intervene. She nearly burned down her apartment." "Dad's not that bad," Lisa said quickly. Then she paused. Yet. The word hung over the dinner table like a sword. "What are you suggesting?" I asked. Lisa reached across to pat my hand. "Just options. Places where you'd have support, social activities, meal preparation, medical supervision. You want to put me in a nursing home." "Not a nursing home," Mark corrected. "Memory care facilities are different now, more like luxury apartments with staff support." Robert nodded approvingly. "Tom's place has a golf course, indoor pool, activities every day." "And the cost?" I asked. The table went quiet. "Dad, don't worry about money," Lisa said. "We'll figure it out." That's when David, my nephew, asked the question that changed everything. "Uncle Ed, if you don't mind me asking, what kind of resources are we talking about, for planning purposes?" I looked around the table at my assembled family. 14 people hanging on my answer. "I'm comfortable," I said simply. "But specifically," David pressed, "because memory care can run 8 to 12,000 monthly. If you need long-term care," Mark interrupted. "Ed's more than comfortable. He's well-positioned financially." "How well-positioned?" Carol asked. The room fell silent except for the grandfather clock ticking in the corner. Lisa shot Mark a warning look, but he was already committed. "Let's just say Uncle Ed won't need to worry about care costs." "That's good to hear," Robert said, "because once someone needs memory care, they usually don't recover. It's a one-way financial commitment." Susan nodded. "Grandma's care cost us everything. The house, the savings, everything went to the facility." I played my role perfectly. "Everything?" "Don't worry, Dad," Lisa said quickly. "We've been researching options. There are ways to protect assets, legal strategies." "What kind of strategies?" Mark cleared his throat. "Well, if someone transfers assets before they need care, Medicaid has a 5-year look-back period. But if it's done properly—" "You're talking about hiding money from the government?" I asked. "Not hiding," Lisa corrected. "Preserving family wealth for the next generation. It's completely legal." Carol looked uncomfortable. "Lisa, this seems premature. Ed's having some memory issues, but he's not incompetent." "Yet," Mark repeated. "But families need to plan ahead. That's when I dropped my first bomb. Actually, I've already been planning ahead." Every conversation stopped. "What do you mean?" Lisa asked. "I've been working with an estate attorney, updating my will, trust documents, power of attorney arrangements." The color drained from Lisa's face. When? Past few months. After your mother died, I realized I needed better organization. What kind of arrangements? Mark asked carefully. I looked around the table at my family. 14 people who'd just spent dinner discussing my financial future like I wasn't present. Well, I've designated specific family members to handle my affairs if I become incapacitated. Which family members? Lisa asked. The ones who've demonstrated wisdom and responsibility over the years. Lisa and Mark exchanged panicked glances. Dad, maybe we should discuss this privately, Lisa suggested. Why? This affects the whole family. Robert leaned forward. Ed, have you considered that Lisa and Mark are the logical choices? They live closest, they understand your situation best. Do they? Of course we do, Mark said quickly. We've been helping you with banking, medical appointments, daily management. I nodded slowly. Yes, you've been very helpful with my banking. Something in my tone made Lisa's eyes narrow.
Dad, what exactly did you tell the estate attorney? The truth, that I've been observing how family members respond to my apparent decline, how they prioritize my welfare versus their own interests. The table went dead silent. What do you mean, observing? Carol asked. I smiled the confused smile of an elderly man. Oh, just noticing things. How people talk about me when they think I can't hear. How they make plans for my future without asking my opinion. Lisa's face was flushed now. Dad, we only want what's best for you. Do you? Of course. Then why did you withdraw $480,000 from my account without asking? The silence was deafening. Mark's fork clattered onto his plate. Lisa's mouth opened and closed like a fish. What? Carol gasped. Last month, October 3rd, 2:47 p.m., TD Bank on Main Street. Cashier's check for $480,000.
14 pairs of eyes turned to Lisa and Mark. Dad, Lisa whispered, you said it was okay, for emergencies. Did I? When exactly did I say that? Mark found his voice. Ed, you've been forgetting conversations. We discussed this multiple times. Interesting, I said mildly, because I don't remember authorizing the largest withdrawal in my banking history. The grandchildren were staring now, sensing something wrong but not understanding what. Maybe, I continued, we should ask Dr. Patricia Reynolds about my memory. She just told me my cognitive scores are 99th percentile for my age group. Lisa looked like she might faint. Or, I added, we could review the audio recordings I've been making for the past 6 months. The temperature in the room dropped 20 degrees. Audio recordings? Robert asked. I nodded pleasantly. Research documentation, for a study I'm conducting on family dynamics.
And that's when I knew the experiment had reached its conclusion. Time for the final phase. The intervention meeting was Lisa's idea. She called me the Monday after Thanksgiving, voice shaking with false concern. Dad, after what happened at dinner, Mark and I think it's time for a professional assessment. Dr. Reynolds agrees. What kind of assessment? Cognitive evaluation, memory testing, just to establish a baseline. I could hear Mark coaching her in the background. She was reading from notes. Who would be present? Just family. And Dr. Reynolds. Maybe someone from the memory care facility to explain options. Options. Such a gentle word for stripping away someone's independence. When were you thinking? This Friday, December 15th. At your house, so you're comfortable. December 15th. Perfect timing. That sounds reasonable, I said. Really? The surprise in her voice was telling. She had expected resistance. You're probably right.
Better to know where I stand medically. Great, Dr. Reynolds will bring some standard tests, nothing invasive. After I hung up, I made 3 phone calls. First, to Dr. Janet Foster at the University Psychology Department. Janet, remember that family dynamics study we discussed? I need witness documentation for the final phase. The controlled intervention methodology? Exactly. Friday, December 15th, 3 p.m., my residence. Can you attend? Absolutely. This sounds like groundbreaking research. Bring your recording equipment and maybe Dr. Sarah Kim from the ethics board. Ed, how many subjects are involved? 2 primary subjects, 1 secondary, plus medical and legal observers. Fascinating. What's your hypothesis? That subjects will maintain their deception narrative even when confronted with evidence of misconduct. Second call went to attorney Sarah Mitchell. Sarah, I need legal witness documentation for that estate matter we discussed.
The conditional inheritance clauses?
Exactly. Friday afternoon, my home. Can you bring standard recording equipment? Of course.
Should I prepare any specific documents? New power of attorney forms, and information about elder financial abuse statutes in New Hampshire. Ed, is this about your family situation? Let's just say the research phase is concluding. Third call was to Dr. Patricia Reynolds. Patricia, about Friday's assessment. I need to modify the parameters slightly. How so? I'd like some colleagues present, for research purposes. What kind of research? I'm documenting family response patterns to perceived cognitive decline. Friday represents the culmination of 6 months of controlled observation. Patricia was quiet for a moment. Ed, are you saying you've been performing symptoms? I'm saying my cognitive function has been consistent throughout this period. My family's response has been educational. How educational? They've withdrawn $480,000 from my account without authorization. Jesus, Ed, that's elder financial abuse. It's also data, which I've been meticulously documenting. You need legal counsel. Already arranged. Sarah Mitchell will be present Friday. This is brilliant and terrible. It's necessary. Friday morning arrived gray and cold. I spent the morning preparing my study like a courtroom. Fiona's mahogany dining table in the center. 6 chairs arranged precisely. Audio recording equipment positioned discreetly. File folders containing 6 months of documentation. At 2:30, my colleagues arrived first. Dr. Janet Foster carried a professional-grade recording system. Ed, I have to say, this methodology is unprecedented. Dr. Sarah Kim, chair of the Ethics Board, reviewed her notes. The subjects provided implicit consent through their voluntary participation in deceptive behavior? Correct. They chose to engage in financial manipulation while believing I was cognitively impaired. I simply documented their choices. Attorney Sarah Mitchell spread legal documents across the table. I've brought New Hampshire statutes on elder abuse, power of attorney forms, and documentation of asset protection. At 2:45, Dr. Patricia Reynolds arrived. Ed, I'm still processing this. You've been pretending to have dementia? I've been allowing my family to believe what they wanted to believe. Their interpretation of my behavior revealed their true priorities. The audio recordings are legal? New Hampshire is a one-party consent state. I can record conversations I'm part of. And the bank withdrawals? Technically legal. Lisa is a joint account holder, morally questionable, given their stated justifications. At 3 p.m. exactly, Lisa and Mark arrived. They walked into my dining room expecting a vulnerable old man and a sympathetic doctor. Instead, they found the formal academic setting with 5 professionals seated around a conference table. Lisa stopped in the doorway. Dad, what's all this? Please sit down. Dr. Reynolds wanted some colleagues present for the assessment. Mark's eyes darted between the unfamiliar faces. Who are these people? Dr. Janet Foster from the University Psychology Department. Dr. Sarah Kim, chair of the Ethics Board. Attorney Sarah Mitchell, who specializes in elder law. Why do we need an attorney? Lisa asked. Professional documentation, I said simply. Please have a seat. They sat reluctantly, Mark's hands fidgeting, Lisa's purse clutched tight. Dr. Reynolds opened her folder. Before we begin cognitive testing, I'd like to review some background information. Of course, Lisa said. Lisa, you requested this assessment because you believe your father is showing signs of dementia. Yes, memory problems, confusion, repeating himself. Can you give specific examples? Lisa recited the list she'd memorized. Forgetting names, leaving appliances on, asking the same questions multiple times. Dr. Foster took notes, her expression neutral. And Mark, you've observed these symptoms as well? Definitely. Ed's been scattered, unfocused. Sometimes he doesn't seem to recognize me. I see. And how long have you noticed these changes? About 6 months, Mark said. Coincidentally, Dr. Kim interjected, that time frame matches when you gained access to his financial accounts. The room went silent. Lisa's face flushed. We wanted to help with his banking. By withdrawing $480,000? Mark stood up abruptly. Who retribution and you told you about that? I did, I said calmly. All eyes turned to me. For the first time in 6 months, I dropped the confused elderly man act completely. Sit down, Mark. Something in my voice made him comply immediately. Doctor, Reynolds opened a different folder. Before we proceed with cognitive testing, I need to share some information. Your father's most recent assessment scores. She slid papers across the table to Lisa and Mark. Memory function, 99th percentile for his age group. Problem solving, superior range. Attention and focus, perfect scores. Lisa stared at the test results. But he's been so confused. Have I? I asked. The question hung in the air. Dad, you called Mark Mike dozens of times. Did I? Or did I call him by the wrong name to see how you'd react? Mark's face went pale. You've been testing us? For 6 months. A controlled psychological experiment examining how adult children respond when elderly parents appear vulnerable. Dr. Foster smiled slightly. It's actually quite elegant methodology. You've been lying to us? Lisa's voice cracked. I've been observing you. The lying came from your end. Attorney Mitchell opened her briefcase. But perhaps we should review the evidence. I stood up slowly, walked to my desk, and returned with a thick folder. 6 months of documentation, I said, setting it on the table. Audio recordings, financial records, behavioral observations. Lisa stared at the folder like it might explode. Let's start with October 3rd, I continued. The day you withdrew $480,000 from my account. I opened the folder and pulled out a bank statement. TD Bank, Main Street Branch, 2:47 p.m. Cashier's check number 774921. Mark shifted in his chair. Ed, we can explain. Please don't interrupt. I'm presenting findings. Dr. Foster activated her recording equipment. For the record, this is Dr. Janet Foster documenting Professor Thompson's research presentation on December 15, 2024. I pulled out a second document. Your spending pattern over 8 weeks. $67,000 for Mark's truck. $43,000 for kitchen renovation. $155,000 down payment on a beach condo in Hampton. Lisa's hands were shaking. Dad, you said it was okay for emergencies. Did I? Let's review the audio evidence. I pressed play on my digital recorder. Lisa's voice filled the room. Dad won't need all that cash anyway. If he goes into memory care, Medicaid will cover most expenses. This way, we're protecting the family's assets. The silence was deafening. That's from September 28th, I said. You were in my kitchen on the phone with a real estate agent. Mark found his voice. You recorded private conversations? New Hampshire is a one-party consent state. I can record any conversation I participate in. And technically, I was present for all of these. Attorney Mitchell nodded. Completely legal. I played another clip. Mark's voice this time. The old man doesn't need all that money anyway. He's disappearing into his own head. We're not stealing. We're investing in people who actually value family. Mark's current face went white. That was taken out of context. What context justifies taking someone's life savings without permission? Dr. Kim leaned forward. From an ethics perspective, this represents a fascinating case study in moral justification under perceived cognitive decline. I pulled out more documents. Let's examine your stated concerns about my mental capacity versus your actual behavior. Stated concern. Dad might get scammed by phone calls. Actual behavior. You researched nursing homes without my knowledge. Stated concern. Dad's leaving appliances on. Actual behavior. You lied about finding the stove on. I have documentation proving it never happened. Stated concern. Dad needs help with finances. Actual behavior. You transferred my money to accounts I can't access. Lisa was crying now. Dad, we were trying to protect you. From what? From losing everything to medical bills. I have $3.2 million in total assets. What medical bills could possibly threaten that? Mark's jaw dropped. $3.2 million? Did you think $480,000 was my entire net worth? Dr. Reynolds consulted her notes. This demonstrates a critical failure in family communication about financial resources. I continued methodically. Let's review your assessment of my cognitive abilities. Another audio clip played. Lisa's voice. He's just a confused old professor who doesn't understand the real world. That money is wasted sitting in his account. October 15th, I said. You were explaining to Mark why the theft was justified. It wasn't theft, Mark protested. Attorney Mitchell spoke up. In New Hampshire, taking more than $1,500 without explicit permission constitutes felony elder financial abuse. The penalty is up to 7 years in prison. The room went silent. However, she continued, since Lisa was technically a joint account holder, the legal situation is complex. I pulled out my final document, which brings us to the real purpose of today's meeting. I slid papers across to Lisa and Mark. New power of attorney forms. What? Lisa whispered. You've spent 6 months arguing that I'm incompetent to manage my own affairs. Today we're making that official. Mark stood up.
Ed, you can't be serious. Sit down. The authority in my voice made him comply. Dr. Reynolds, please share your professional assessment. Dr. Reynolds cleared her throat. Based on comprehensive testing, Professor Thompson shows no signs of cognitive impairment. His mental faculties are exceptional for any age. Dr. Foster, your professional opinion. The methodology demonstrates sophisticated understanding of psychological manipulation and research design. The subject displays superior analytical capabilities.
Attorney Mitchell? Professor Thompson has full legal capacity to make financial and medical decisions. Any suggestion otherwise would be groundless. I looked at Lisa and Mark. So we have professional consensus. I am mentally competent. Then why, Lisa started. Why did I pretend otherwise? To see who you really were when you thought I couldn't defend myself. I opened the power of attorney documents. These forms remove Lisa's access to my financial accounts. They designate Dr. Foster as my medical proxy and Attorney Mitchell as financial executor. Dad, no. You demonstrated that when given access to my resources, you prioritize your own interests over my welfare. Why would I continue that arrangement? Mark leaned forward desperately. Ed, we made mistakes, but we're family. Are we? I played one final audio clip. Lisa's voice. I've been trying to matter to that man for 42 years. 42 years of being his research subject instead of his daughter. This money? It's not stealing, it's finally making our family matter more than his studies. Lisa buried her face in her hands. November 20th, I said quietly. You were justifying the theft to Mark. Dr. Kim took notes. The subject creates a narrative where financial exploitation becomes emotional justice. The irony, I continued, is that you've now actually become my research subjects. This entire interaction will be published in the Journal of Family Psychology. Lisa looked up, horrified. You can't publish this. All names will be changed, but the methodology and findings will contribute significantly to elder abuse research. I signed the power of attorney forms with deliberate strokes. Effective immediately, Lisa Thompson Brown is removed from all financial accounts. Mark Williams is banned from my property. Any attempt to contact me must go through Attorney Mitchell. Dad, please. The experiment is concluded. The findings are clear. You failed the most basic test of family loyalty. Dr. Foster gathered her equipment. This represents groundbreaking research in family psychology under stress conditions. Attorney Mitchell collected the signed documents. I'll file these with the appropriate courts Monday morning. I stood up. Lisa, Mark, please see yourselves out. They sat frozen. Now. They left without another word. I was alone with my colleagues and the devastating silence of a family destroyed by greed. But for the first time in 6 months, I felt like myself again. The consequences began immediately. By Monday morning, Attorney Mitchell had filed the power of attorney changes with Rockingham County Court. Lisa's joint account access was terminated. All automatic payments from my accounts to their expenses, car loans, credit cards, the beach condo mortgage, stopped instantly. The first call came Tuesday at 7 a.m. Dad, the mortgage payment bounced. Lisa's voice was panicked. The bank is threatening foreclosure proceedings. You'll need to contact Attorney Mitchell for any financial discussions. Dad, please, we can't afford the condo payments without... I hung up. Mark called Wednesday. Ed, my business account is overdrawn. The equipment loan payment was rejected. As I told Lisa, all communication goes through my attorney. But I'll lose the business. You should have considered that before stealing my life savings. Click. The social consequences spread through our small New Hampshire town like wildfire. Dr. Reynolds, bound by medical ethics, couldn't discuss specifics, but she made it clear to her colleagues that I was mentally sharp and had been systematically financially exploited by family members. Word travels fast in medical circles. By Thursday, 3 people at the grocery store asked if I was okay after that trouble with Lisa and Mark. Mrs. Henderson from next door brought over a casserole. Ed, I heard about the difficulties. If you need anything. Thank you, Eleanor. I'm managing fine. It's just, family should take care of each other, not the other way around. She didn't need to say more. The university community rallied around me. Dr. Foster's preliminary research findings had already generated interest from the psychology department. Ed, this could revolutionize how we understand elder abuse, she said during our Friday meeting. The methodology is unprecedented. What's the publication timeline? 6 months for peer review. But I think we should present at the American Psychological Association conference first. The professional vindication felt hollow compared to the family devastation. Lisa tried a different approach the following week. She showed up at my door with the grandchildren. Grandpa! 10-year-old Emma ran toward me. I hugged her but kept my eyes on Lisa. What are you doing? The kids wanted to see you. They don't understand why you won't talk to us. 8-year-old Tommy looked confused. Grandpa, why is Mommy crying all the time? My heart broke a little. Sometimes adults make mistakes, Tommy. Big mistakes that hurt people they love. Lisa's face crumpled. Dad, we're sorry. We'll pay back every penny. With what money? You spent it all. We'll sell the condo, return the truck, whatever it takes. I knelt down to hug the children. You two go play in the backyard. Grandpa needs to talk to your mother. When they were gone, I faced Lisa directly. $480,000 was just money. You stole something more valuable. What? Trust, respect, the belief that family means something beyond financial opportunity. Dad, I know we messed up, but cutting us off completely? The kids don't deserve this. She was right about the children, but that didn't change the fundamental betrayal. Lisa, for 6 months you treated me like a mentally incompetent burden. You researched nursing homes. You planned my future without consulting me. You celebrated spending my money on luxuries while discussing my decline at family dinner. We were scared. Of what? Of losing you. Of watching you disappear like Mom did. So you decided to take what you could before I died? Lisa had no answer. The financial reckoning was brutal. Without my money subsidizing their lifestyle, Lisa and Mark faced immediate crisis. The beach condo went into foreclosure. Mark's business struggled without the cash flow from my account. They had to sell their house and move into a rental apartment. Lisa's colleagues at work learned about the situation. Small companies gossip. Her professional reputation suffered. Mark's HVAC business lost 3 major contracts when word spread about the family trouble. In small towns, character matters, but the harshest consequence was isolation. Carol, Fiona's sister, stopped speaking to Lisa. I can't believe you did that to Ed. Robert and Susan avoided family gatherings. Too awkward with everything that happened. David, my nephew, called to apologize. Uncle Ed, I'm ashamed I didn't see what was happening at Thanksgiving. By Christmas, Lisa and Mark were persona non grata in our extended family. The children suffered most. They couldn't understand why family celebrations stopped, why their grandfather seemed distant, why their parents whispered and cried. On December 23rd, Lisa made one final attempt. A handwritten letter arrived in my mailbox. Dad, I know I destroyed our relationship. I know saying sorry isn't enough. But the kids ask about you every day. They love you. Please don't punish them for our mistakes. Please don't let our greed destroy their chance to know their grandfather. I'll accept whatever boundaries you set. But please, don't disappear from their lives completely. I stared at that letter for 3 hours. Fiona would have forgiven them by now. But Fiona never lived to see her daughter steal from her husband. Some betrayals leave scars that never fully heal. The question was whether I wanted to be right or whether I wanted to be family. I called Lisa on New Year's Day. Dad? Her voice was hopeful but cautious. I want to see the children. Silence, then crying. Thank you so much. But there are conditions. Anything. You and Mark attend financial counseling, professional help with money management, and family boundaries. Of course. You write formal letters of apology acknowledging what you did wrong, not excuses, acknowledgement. We will. The children can visit me twice monthly, supervised initially. You and Mark are not welcome in my home until further notice. I understand. And Lisa? Yes. If you ever lie to me again, if you ever manipulate me or treat me as incompetent, this relationship ends permanently. No second chances. I promise, Dad. We learned our lesson. Did you? The question hung between us. 6 months later, I published the research findings in the Journal of Family Psychology. The paper, titled Cognitive Vulnerability Performance and Financial Exploitation, a Controlled Family Study, won the academic community's highest ethics award. Dr. Foster and I presented the methodology at 3 conferences. The work contributed to new legislation protecting elderly adults from family financial abuse. Lisa and Mark completed their counseling program. They paid back $112,000, everything they could recover from asset sales. The rest was gone forever. The children visit every other Saturday. We play board games, work on puzzles, and I help with homework. Slowly, carefully, we're rebuilding trust. Lisa and Mark remain estranged. They attend the children's school events and birthday parties, but we don't speak beyond basic coordination. Some bridges, once burned, can't be rebuilt. But some relationships, even damaged ones, deserve the chance to heal differently. Fiona's pictures still line my mantel. I talk to her sometimes, explaining my choices, wondering if she'd approve. I taught them respect, I tell her photo, even if it came too late. The money doesn't matter anymore. At 67, with 3.2 million in assets, I have more than I'll ever need. What matters is that I refuse to be treated as less than human by my own family. What matters is that the children will grow up understanding boundaries and consequences. What matters is that an old psychology professor proved that quiet power beats loud arrogance every single time. If you're dealing with family members who don't respect your boundaries, remember this. You teach people how to treat you.
And sometimes the most important lesson is the one that costs the most to learn. Thanks for listening to my story. Let me know in the comments where you're watching from, and whether you think I was too harsh or not harsh enough. Some relationships can be saved. Others need to be rebuilt from the ground up. And some need to end to preserve what dignity remains. The choice is always yours.